Hello, my name is Beatrix. I'm one of the complementary therapists at St Michael's Hospice. This is the sixth in a series of short videos that I'm doing every Friday during the lockdown period. The aim behind the videos is to give you space to stop, relax and let go. Each week I like to have a different theme, and this week's theme is the joints. So I'm going to sit back in my chair. I'd like to describe to you a synovial joint. So most of the joints in our body are synovial joints. And this is where two bones join. At the end of each bone, there's cartilage. And the cartilage is kind of like a shock absorber, and it stops the bone itself wearing out, and it aids the smooth movement of the joint. Then this joint is encased in a membrane called synovial membrane. And within the membrane, between the cartilage, there's a fluid called synovial fluid. And that's a bit like the oil in a joint, aiding the movement of the joint. Now the cartilage doesn't have any blood supply to it, so it is fed and maintained by the fluid, which is nutrient rich. And the fluid is produced by the membrane, the synovial membrane that encases the joint. And the membrane is stimulated to produce fluid every time the joint moves. So when we move our joints, we are oiling our joints and aiding the general mobility of our joints. The problem is that often we sit still or we lie down in bed and sleep for the night. And when we wake up, we can feel a bit stiff. And we feel stiff because the joints have dried out, because there's been no stimulation of the membranes to produce the fluid. So it's a really good idea that once you've been sitting still or lying still for a while, you move each joint to wake it up, to produce more fluid, to aid the mobility of our joints and maintain the cartilage and the joint health generally. So today, I'd like to spend maybe 5 minutes quickly going through each joint of our body, giving a little bit of movement. The movement doesn't have to be big, it just has to be a movement to stimulate that membrane. So I'm going to just show you how I would do it. If you can't do the movement I'm doing, do your own version of it. If the movement hurts, do it less. If it still hurts, don't do it at all. This is about your health, and pain is a sign that something's not quite right. We don't want to cause any problems or injuries. I'm going to do my movements standing up, but you can also do them seated. So I'm just going to step back. Now I'm aware that the sound goes quite quiet when I step back, so I'm going to try my hardest to talk loudly, but if you can't hear me, just copy what I'm doing physically, okay? Just move this chair. So hopefully if I stand here, you can see all of me. And I'm going to start at the bottom of my body. And I'm just going to wriggle my toes, a bit like my fingers are, but maybe not quite as mobile. I'm just wiggling my toes any way I can as I stand here. Then I'm going to stand on one leg. You don't need to hold on to something, or you do. And I'm going to rotate my ankles one way and then the other. Obviously, this is a lot more easy if you're sitting down. So one way and then the other. And then I'm going to bring my legs together, bend my knees and place my hands on my knees and do circles with my knees. Obviously, this is really tricky if you're sitting down, and you might just have to improvise as best you can. So I do a few circles one way and a few circles the other, and then come to stillness. So now I'm going to bring my feet about hip width apart, put my hands on my hips and just rotate my hips round. One way and then the other. Now if I'm seated, this will be a bit tricky and it might look more like this. Still bringing movement to the hip joints and the lower back and up the spine. So then, moving our way up, I come to my shoulders. So I'm going to bring my shoulders up, back and down. So I'm doing big circles with my shoulders. Now if I alternate my shoulders, so one and then the other, the movement moves down my spine more, creating movement between each of my vertebrae of the spine. And I can actually allow my hips to sway a little with this, bringing movement all down my body. And I can bring my arms in too, bringing movement to my shoulder joints. This is obviously just as possible seated. And then I come to stillness. So then I've got my elbows. And I can move my elbows whichever way I like. There's no exactness to this. It's just bringing movement to the joints. And then my wrists, so rotating my wrists. And then my fingers, wiggling my fingers and my wrists. And then you can just shake your arms and shoulders out completely before we move up to the head. So you can just wiggle the head any way you want. All we're trying to do is to bring movement to every single joint. Or you can do rotations, so going to the side, rolling your head. And then come to stillness. And just give our whole body a shake. If you're sitting on a chair, it will look like this. And then we stop. Having moved every joint of my body, I now just want to reflect on my body and how it feels, to see if the actions I just did had any effect. So ideally we're seated for this, and I'd like you just to allow your body to come to stillness and your eyes to gently shut. Turn your gaze inwards. Feel your weight resting in the chair. Notice your breathing. Has your breathing changed from that movement? Can you feel your heart beating? Does your body feel different to how it did before you did these exercises? And then gently open your eyes. I hope you found those beneficial. It took 4-5 minutes to move each one of our joints. Hopefully you felt some benefit from doing it. It's something I would recommend you do every morning or in the day if you've been sitting for a while. Quick, easy to do. You can take longer doing it if you want to, and that will have more benefit. But I'm trying to convey this to you in a small, easy to digest form. Anyway, I will be posting another video next Friday. I look forward to it.